Welcome back to Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate, Prowler only. Last time we took on a quest called the Best of the Best and had us hunting a variety of monsters. This time, not really doing much different, though I guess all except for one monster is different, and that being Zinogre is not the end monster, it is the second monster actually. This quest is called the Greatest Hunter, and as opposed to the Best of the Best, you're not fighting the monsters 2-on-2. It is 1-on-1, you kill one, wait for it to despawn, the next one spawns in. And I would personally say there's a bit of a more fitting end monster, that being Savage Devil Joe. Of course, it's still in the arena. I have the Silverwind Star equipped because there is no good common elemental weakness. So I think Raw would just be better aside from maybe status, but I don't think it's really that important. Either way, I've taken the quest, and I'll go ahead and head on out. Alright, so like the mini quests before this, it's a high rank quest, so the monsters aren't really dealing that many or that much more damage than I'd say probably their regular high rank counterparts, if at all. They are event quests, so sometimes they have higher defense and attack multipliers, but I don't really think so here. I'd have to do the checking, so don't really take anything I say as pure truth. They're not, again, it's just normal monsters. They're not hyper, they're not faster in any sense. So there's not really anything new that we're going to be seeing here. So I may not linger too long on each monster, maybe aside from the last one, just because it is Savage and we don't see Savage very much. But it is high rank Savage, so still not super amazing. But it takes about 30 minutes for the quest. If I'm a little bit more adamant with using my Mega Boomerangs, then maybe a little bit faster, but we'll see. Really doesn't matter too much. I will also say this. You may notice I have Monster Dar equipped, and that is because the last time I think I used the Bloodbath Hammer, I did not actually switch off of Element Attack, which I'm sure you're probably aware does not increase raw damage in any way, shape, or form. Would be neat if it like gave a little non-elemental boost. As opposed to boosting element, but either way, I did switch off of that. I don't really have any good alternate skills to use. Critical Up S does increase my affinity by 10%, of course, but I didn't have anything other than that to apply, so I just stuck Monster Dar on there. I could use Non-Stick Fur, but I don't think Non-Stick Fur is going to do much, and I'm not really a big fan of Non-Stick Fur that much anyways, because you don't really get a lot of use, or really... You don't get a lot of use out of it, and the times you would just assume be able to Soothing Roll out of it. Let me say it like that. You can be hit out of the shake-off animation, and you cannot use your Soothing Roll during it. So I feel like that just ties you up a little bit more than just being able to use Soothing Roll and not, you know, getting the quick breakout. So that's why I'm just using Monster Dar. Monster Dar is not doing much. I don't have any traps on my Palicos, as far as I remember. I did on the other save file, but that was just because that was the cats I was using at the time. So if they were here, and if they were trapping, I could maybe use that to my advantage to capture the monster. At the very least know that it's capturable. But here, it doesn't really do much other than give me a status report on the monster and how much health it has left. With some variance, because I don't really remember what the health thresholds are for blinking. But I could probably, if I really wanted to, I could just use like attack up small on the second slot of my teaching skills, because that's what Monster Dar's on. It's actually the first slot, but would be the second one that's not being used. I could also do attack up large and get rid of critical up small, if I can speak at all. I don't really see the point though. Again, not a terribly long hunt for 5 monsters, about 5 minutes a piece, kind of. So I feel like any going out of my way to change skills isn't super important, especially considering the fact that this is a Jack of all trades cat, so I don't really feel like changing it up just to have to change it back later. Not that I'm probably doing any more specific capture quests, but I don't know, I guess it's nice to have. It's laziness, I know. Again, I would be having a faster time if I'd switched the skills out, but I just don't really see much of a value in it, other than maybe having a couple of hunts that are faster. Of course, if I have element attack up, I'm going to use that with my element weapons, which I do have element attack up. I've been using it the entire time. That's kind of the whole point of this rant. But yeah, Rathalos, broken a wing. You know, maybe try to go for the other one. Would like to get it before he falls. Would be nice. Okay, I'm very bad at hitting his wings, apparently. He did do a weird turn, though. I'm gonna tackle, fireball, dodge into that. Very weirdly angled tackle there. I assume that was just from the geometry. As you can see, I'm not taking hardly any damage, so I can face tank a lot of stuff if I absolutely want to. There's the second wing break. I'm gonna actually pull this out, see if it goes. It should, because he did the get up animation. Knock him on the ground. Go for his face. Do another one. This one may get me hit. That's fine though. That's why we use them when they're cheap, so we don't lose as much if we do fail it. Aerial flamethrower. Dodge to the left. Another aerial flamethrower. Completely missed the quick aim there. He's going to tackle. Just dodge into it. Another tackle. Again, I think you get the point of Rathalos, so I'll meet you when he goes down. There's not really anything new here. Alright, there's Rathalos. Not really much to it, of course. Goes down pretty quickly. He's got a really good, nice head weak spot, so he'll go down pretty quickly as long as you focus that. Has a lot of part breaks too if you're looking for particular Wrath equipment, but if you're farming Rathalos, you'd rather just be farming single Rathalos or multi-Rathalos quests. Not anything to do with one Rathalos and 4 other monsters that have a decent chunk of health at the very least. Either way, I will meet you when Zinogre appears. Alright, Zinogre spawns in. You could get 2 Mega Boomerangs off, but I'll start with 1. Guess he does just kind of circle his neck around. Doesn't do much more other than that though. Start little horn jabs and stuff like that, but that's not going to do anything. Half the time it doesn't even like knock you out of what you're doing. It just kind of gives you a little tap. So you can be a little bit more aggressive here. Certainly a nice monster for melee cats, just because the legs are a weak spot for, at the very least, cutting. I think they are for blunt as well. So they are a nice option to be able to attack and get some nice trips. As per usual with any monster with a weak leg hit zone, they will fall over pretty frequently as long as you focus those spots. Which is, you know, mostly common for a lot of monsters, as long as their leg hit zones aren't like awfully strong and you're like bouncing on them and stuff like that. Like if you do focus them, they will fall over a lot more than when you don't, but the amount of damage you get from the topple may not be worth it. Like, maybe for greatsword and hit and run weapons, it would be more worth it, because then you can like charge up a big attack once you get the topple. But for other weapons like sword and shield and stuff, probably just better going for the weak spots, or the weakest spot that you can reach. Sword and shield isn't the best weapon for reach because, you know, it's a very small sword. Same for dual blades, but they can get some damage out pretty quick and then run away, which I guess they themselves are also blunt weapon, or not blunt weapons, oh my goodness, hit and run weapons, right? I feel like that is the epitome of sword and shield, where you get in, do a bunch of hits, and then dodge until you get another opening. Well, I guess the kind of the point of hit and run is you hit once and run. So, you know, great sword, not sword and shield. That's hits and run, maybe weapons, but I guess the ability to stick to a monster also means you're not running. So kind of just completely butchered what that meaning actually meant. And it's important to not butcher meanings, because words have meanings. When you butcher them, you kind of water them down, and nothing makes sense anymore. Yeah, double thunderbug shot. I am missing a lot of attacks here that I could be hitting, but that's okay. Again, he's a very crunchy monster, so he will brittly fall apart just as long as you keep attacking his weak spots. I don't think that will magnetize to me, and he only does 2 in high rank, I believe. Or at least he only did 2 there. I think this is safe. Get this going. He maybe will just tackle me, so I think that's safe. He's not going to do anything like Nargacuga where he jumps to the side, or Rathalos where he flies to the side. So it's pretty safe if he's staring you down and right after an animation, so he has to do a head turn or something, that you should be able to get that off. Okay, missed my timing there. That's all right. Here comes a swoop. Very good. Couple of charged attacks. Never mind, just a single attack. Not charged. Keep going. Horn jab. Okay, I'll get hit here. That's fine. Soothing roll it off. Swipe. Comes a tail sweep. Ran out of piercing boomerangs. Not super great, but that's fun. Probably gonna charge at some point, right? Should be able to get the first one with just using your regular boomerangs. It's the second one that you probably have to use a mega boomerang for to get the break on, because you're not quite fast enough, unless you're like maybe using an ice weapon. Obviously, hunter weapons would probably have an easier time getting the break, but that we are not. He's flashing, fixing to go down, so maybe here. Nope, not quite. Getting more breaks though, which is nice. There we go. He's gonna do this. Does it twice. Shouldn't hit me. Keep going into the legs. Try to get a topple or something. There's the topple. Try to go into the face now. I could use a mega boomerang here, but I think I'd rather conserve gauge for the next monster that appears. One more here. In fact, I don't really even want to apply big boomerangs here. I think I can just finish him off with this, maybe pretty quickly. Actually, I have 5 points. I don't need to save all of that. Gonna charge up. He'll probably get charged with this, so I don't mind. Okay, never mind. There's my regular weapon just flunching him out of his second charge, so just take all of that I just said and throw it out the window. And now Zenogre is down, so whatever the next monster is, I really do not remember. Brachydios. He will come in next. Alright. Brachy time. He appears in the middle. And this one is certainly one I can get to off on if I had enough gauge for it, but I'm not going to do that. I'd rather get more consistent damage out. You know, kind of what I've said for the last however many parts I've been doing this. Just consistent damage for cats is really important because that's kind of their claim to fame. Just a more mobile lance of sorts, except it deals less damage than lance. And certainly striker lance, which is like really good. At the very least, it was really good in Generations. It's not as good now. I think the charge finisher on striker was nerfed from like 70 to like 67 or 62. I want to say it was 62, which is, you know, it may not seem like much, but it is a pretty significant drop. So certainly not as good as it used to be. There are quite a few nerfs coming into Generations Ultimate, which, you know, just I guess really depends on how you feel about it. I didn't use hunter weapons that much in Generations, so knowing what nuances change and all that fun stuff really hasn't affected me too much, but it is kind of not as fun to see a really strong weapon that you enjoyed go to being too weak. There is a balance, obviously. You don't like the slicing ammo in World before they nerfed that. Like that, you know, I don't think needs to be that strong because that's just kind of a boring way to play the game. And then you have the stuff like Sword and Shield and Wilds, which was very strong, and they didn't really nerf. They nerfed some things in Wilds, right? But they didn't nerf much. They just kind of kept boosting the weapons, but they kept boosting the monsters as well. I don't really know if they boosted the monsters enough compared to the amount they were boosting the weapons, at the very least on a flat plane like that. Like, I feel like the weapons got more buffs than the monsters did, but certainly an interesting design philosophy on that. However, stuff like Sword and Shield was, and still is, at the very least at the time of recording this, very strong. So while I use it because I enjoy it, it can be fun. There are, I guess it really just depends on what you're going up against, right? I'm gonna keep rambling about it. The standard monsters in high rank just kind of fold over to Sword and Shield, and that's not fun. I didn't really enjoy that. But the later stuff that they've introduced, very fun. A lot more fun, at the very least. And being able to pivot around the monsters and stuff with a mobile weapon like that while not taking them down in 3 to 5 minutes is much more fun. Again, you can see these monsters, they barely survive a 4-minute ramble, 3-minute ramble. So they're not really putting up that much of a fight. But there's 5 of them, so they still take like 30 minutes. And yes, these monsters are very much punching bags, but I'm using G-rank gear, so that's kind of the expectation. There's a difference. I think I'm safe here. Yes, that doesn't go straight forward, so try to make sure he doesn't lunge away from that. Didn't really get a lot of hits from that off. I do have Blast Blight on me, so I do need to be careful. Try to get rid of this. Look at me. Keep looking at me. Okay, you're gonna lunge. Dodge. Just slightly away from that. Should be good. About a dodge distance from where he's aiming. Should keep you safe. Really depends on the terrain, as per usual. But on flat ground, or mostly flat ground, you should be fine to just dodge once or twice away, and you should be right out of the range of that and be able to punish him pretty quickly. I don't think Mega Boomerangs are necessarily the safest option there, because he can pull something out pretty quick, but something like this where he's attacking my cat, perfectly fine. And there he goes. All right, the next monster is, I believe, Legiacris, so we'll see him. All right, Leggy spawned in. I think yes, I'm at the right distance for this. He'll turn around, look at me, either get flinched or growl. Or growl. This will flinch him for sure. Reapply my buff so he's recoiling from that, or at least one of them. I'd rather apply piercing than big boomerangs, so I don't mind using enough mega boomerangs just to be able to only do piercing and then get the build up for big boomerangs again slightly later. Like, it was 2 attacks later that I was able to get that, so I think that was a pretty decent trade-off, because the burst damage you get from mega boomerangs is very good. If you haven't learned that by now, well, there you go. Going for the chest and the face is your usual best option, though again, you can break the legs. That is a okay thing to do. They aren't the toughest things in the world, and they do give you claws, or at the very least a chance at claws, so that's an option to go for. But yes, good tackle, very good. That does actually come out pretty quickly compared to some other attacks that you may be used to that are tackles, like Rathalos or something like that, which, yes, I know Rathalos is known for the instant tackles that don't really have a major tail, but it's a bit different. This one has a tail to it, but the lunge forward and the acceleration, I guess, of it is pretty quick, so I do find myself sometimes getting hit by it, even if I'm not really taking much damage. You know, in G rank that would be a lot more dangerous. But he is a nice monster for just piercing weapons in general, so the boomerangs here work pretty nicely on it. Granted, we'd rather be hitting the chest, but the face isn't terrible. And then if you get like a bowgun or a bow, taking a lot of damage there just because of a long weak spot, being very easy to hit with those and pierce through and actually deal damage, because normally piercing bowguns aren't necessarily good because of a monster having a whole lot of weak spots. Obviously that makes them better, but they do still just kind of prevail. Like, obviously Valor Heavy Bowgun is a thing, and it is very good even if the monster isn't particularly weak to piercing specifically. It still just does a lot of damage. Your main benchmark there is just making sure you have enough ammo to finish the hunt, as opposed to like getting the fastest times or stuff like that, which, you know, if you only have a certain amount of your best ammo and you can be pretty efficient in hitting the good weak spots with it, then your hunt times are just naturally going to be pretty quick because you have a limited supply of ammo. So if you have enough ammo to finish the hunt, then once you run out of that ammo, you should, in theory, be finished with the hunt, unless you've just messed it up that badly, which I am no stranger to. I'm very good at wasting ammo. But that's just kind of part of the learning curve of bowguns, right? Even for bows as well, because they don't have infinite coatings. You can craft more, but that's still not infinite, because you cannot bring infinite supplies for coatings. Okay, get hit by that. Very good. Little swoop. Jump over the tail. Not that it matters. Still invincible during that. Comes a tackle. Very good. I'm going to actually lunge here into a spin. Didn't hit the lunge. That's okay, though. Get away from the tail sweep. Another lunge. Spinning under him. I mean, being in under him for the most part's fairly okay. That was an interesting combo. His body hitbox actually pushed me into one of those little electric fences, I guess I could call it that. And that hit me. But honestly, not the worst thing in the world. The tackle, I think, does more damage. Again, not that it matters, but some weird tech, I guess, you can use in later hunts. In G-Rank and stuff like that. Not that you really want to. I think you're just trying to position away from it so you're not taking all that damage, but oh well. If this hits, I think it KOs him. Or at the very least knocks him on the ground. Comes back through. This one should finish him off. Okay, never mind. I'm very bad at this. Never mind, it did. Just with a little bit of help from regular attacks and stuff like that. Alright, once again, not very long to take him down, so I will meet you when Mr. Savage Devil Joe spawns. Alright, you're gonna spawn in at the middle of the map as well. It's a very common spawn point. Zinogre is just kind of a bit odd. He just spawns on the side of the map. I'm not sure quite why that is, what weird little intricacies of the map that are blocking him from spawning from the middle. I do find spawning from the middle honestly kind of a little weird because there's like a fence gap in there. But if I'm to start questioning where monsters spawn and how they spawn now, I think that's a little late. Honestly, I think there's many more questionable things that happen in this game if we're looking for realism, in which I am not. It does just kind of look weird though. So Savage is Savage. He's very tanky. Just aiming for his chest area and maybe his tail. If you're, you know, on his backside, that's an option. Not many good hit zones to pick from. So just trying to get the damage on his claws and stuff like that, which take okay stuff. You can feel it, the screen shake and whatnot. It's not like your controller rumbles or anything when you're hitting a weak spot, but the screen does shake more. You get better feedback at the very least, since there aren't any damage numbers. So that's where I generally aim. He still takes a bit of time, but it's a Savage Devil Joe. What do you expect? As per usual, if you get pinned by him, he can restore a decent amount of health. I think, remembering back to the time where I fought it in G rank, it was about 6%. So 2% per bite, and if he gets 3 bites off, then that's 6%, which was a lot in G rank, but here it's not that much at all. You don't really have to worry about that. That was an interesting tail hitbox, but he gets exhausted very quickly, so you can punish him that way as well. And obviously, if we had a dragon weapon or a thunder weapon, that would be doing much better here than just our regular raw stuff, because he does take decent elemental damage. But beggars can't be choosers. Again, I'm just glad that I'm not taking 40 minutes on a hunt, even if it is a high rank hunt that takes 30 minutes. There's the pin. Again, he really likes to spam pins, which not a big fan of that. I think I've made my opinions known on Savage, where I'm just not really a big fan of him in that regard. If he didn't spam the pins, because that was another pin, if he didn't do that, and you may have a bit of pin immunity after the first one, maybe like mounting, or it has to build up a threshold or something like that. I don't think that's the case. It may be a slight amount of time you're invincible. Either that, or I was just reading the tell wrong. But it is a little just quick grab that he does, and he does it a lot, which again isn't that fun because you're just kind of sitting there watching him restore HP while you're trying to get out of it. And yes, I guess you could use dung bombs, but eh. Again, that's not the most important thing. The goal is just completing it, not doing it in the fastest amount of time possible. Good flinch. Don't have any gauge left though. I'm gonna maybe, okay, nope, never mind. Palico got hit. That's okay though. Didn't want to do that. Being very sloppy with my inputs. Again, he does stay exhausted for a pretty long time. Like, probably about 30% of the hunt he's exhausted at the very least, which isn't normal, but that's just because he has very strong multipliers, I guess, and moves whenever he does get enraged. So it's kind of a balancing act. Very, very kind of. See, I thought that was the pin. I guess it's not. I don't remember the pin. You don't fight this guy very much. Is that obvious? He's not a very common monster. You don't see him very often. Like Devil Joe, okay, fine. You do see him occasionally, but Savage is like, you know, the rare Devil Joe for what that matters. So when you do see him, you do just kind of forget what his tells are. Unless you're like farming him for something, but again, there's not really much you're farming him for because most of the important spots are from either hyper regular Devil Joe or just regular Devil Joe. And especially for cats, you're probably just getting the talons, which you may just get by climbing through the high ranks anyways, which does not require you to fight a Savage Devil Joe. So I don't know. But we're having fun nonetheless, I guess. We're just kind of going back and forth though. Wait for him. The tail is a big contender for hitting you. And it would be more important if he was dealing more damage, as I've been saying, but it's just not. So don't worry about face taking it too much. A little scoop up there, hit the face, dodge left. That tail's gonna hit me. I did not press B quick enough. It's alright though. What you doing now? Swoops. Alright, enrage. Something I can punish at the very least. Throw one out, dodge to the left. I think I'm at a far enough distance away here. This is a good punish spot at the very least. He's gonna do the scoop boulder. That's fine. I don't mind trading that. That's gonna do a lot more in the long run for me than it is for him. Little bite. Throw one out. Another bite. Probably doing another one. Nope. Still got hit by that. It's okay. Keep doing it. It's probably doing something immediately after this. Get a flinch from my Palico, I think. That's pretty cool. And he's stomping. Just like, here's a little trimmer. Like he's mad. It's like, no, stop. I want you to stop. Very weird characterization of a monster like this, but oh well. Another stomp. He really wants me to stop. That's okay. I don't have to be in your range. That doesn't, in my day at the very least. Could have been a little bit faster on that, honestly. Okay, he's exhausted. Never mind. He's going to scoop that up. I wanted to dodge to the right there. That may have actually put me in the line of it, though. But I wanted to get ready for this because he's doing his little exhaustion animation. Ampere's 30 minutes, which is not, unusual to take a little bit longer, especially when he's recovering more HP because I just neglect to actually dodge the attack that comes at me. So just rotate the control sticks, get him off of you. Have enough gauge for another mega. I'm going to try to use it. Yes, he can't really retaliate too quickly here. Very good. Still not blinking yet. Again, he does take a while to get to that stage. I do want to say that I got him to blinking and then he died in the next couple of hits in the test hunt. However, that may have just been me not noticing it was blinking until the last second. And then I was like, oh, he's almost dead. And then he does. I'm like, okay, well, that helped very much. I don't really know outside of trapping and capturing if there's any other use to Monster Dar that, is strategic other than knowing it's fixing to die. But, after it starts blinking, it's like, okay, he's under like 15 or 10% health. What does that really do other than let you know he's fixing to die? I don't really know. Because I don't think monsters particularly change too much at that threshold of HP. Like at 30%, I think some very rarely probably become like permanently enraged. I think that's like Fatalis. I don't think Fatalis is 30%. It's probably more like 50 or 40. At the very least in the earlier gens, that's kind of how it was. I don't really remember if that's the case here or not. I think he goes out of enrage in this game. At the very least, I've fought him recently. Haven't just fought him. But I do know he enrages pretty quickly. Just not always staying enraged. Of course, elders can't be exhausted, so there is no cycle like that where they go from being enraged to being exhausted to all that fun stuff. But we love talking about things that aren't really that important. Just trying to pass the time. Another stomp. Paw this. I think I'm fine. If he hits me, that's okay. Okay, that's fine. Going on under the tail is quite nice. He is blinking now, so he's almost down. That was okay. I think he's got two different pins because one's a jump and the other one's the little rush forward and grab. This is okay, but this is the one that he doesn't eat you. So that means you don't give him HP back. All right, thank you for the tail. That is a very wild recoil for how much the tail actually moves there. Honestly, quite surprising. Can you tell I'm a little sloppy with my evasions? It's almost as if not having to dodge things makes you very sloppy on just trying to dodge things. All right, lunge, spin. All right, I didn't intend to trigger that, but that's fine. I can punish him here. Okay, back up very far here. I think I'm far enough. Rev this up. He will get closer to me. This will pierce and take him out. Again, not the most interesting hunt, but we can say it's finished. The only one really left is Five Kings of Destruction, which is the one I'm most interested in because they actually have a lot of health compared to these monsters, and they deal some decent damage. Either way, I'll finish carving Savage up, and I will meet you back at the hub. All right, back to the hub. Like I said before, the last High Rank specific quest, like event or not, is going to be Five Kings of Destruction, which has all hyper monsters, and Devil Joe is in there too. So probably going to take a while. If not, run out the clock. We'll find out. But either way, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, please consider leaving a comment below and maybe even consider subscribing. Until next time, bye.